The meeting is halfway done when it happens. Your manager is running through the project, the timeline you built, the solution you stayed late to figure out, the framework nobody else had thought to try. And next to you, your coworker is nodding along. The same coworker you shared your draft with last week. The one who read through your work, looked up, and said, "Great idea. Let's run with it." And then your manager turns to them. Really strong thinking on this one. The room moves on. Nobody pauses. Nobody checks your face. And you sit there, holding your coffee, watching someone collect credit for something that is yours, built by your thinking, your time, your effort, while the meeting continues like nothing happened. And the feeling you're left with isn't just anger. It's something more disorienting than that. Because this wasn't a stranger. This was someone you trusted enough to show your work to. And now you're sitting in a room wondering, did that just happen? Do I say something right now? What is the right response here? And do I even have one? Almost 2,000 years ago, a man who had spent years enslaved, a man who understood what it meant to have his labor taken, his effort claimed, his contribution owned by someone with more power, sat down and wrote a framework for exactly this kind of moment. His name was Epictetus. And the principle he wrote wasn't designed for a philosophy classroom. It was a survival tool. One he built out of direct experience with what it costs to have your work treated as someone else's property. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, the most powerful man in the world at the time, came to almost identical conclusions from the opposite end of human experience. Between the two of them, they covered everything. The room, the aftermath, the pattern, and the only ground you can actually stand on when someone does this to you. Epictetus opens the Enchiridion, his handbook, with chapter 1. And he doesn't ease into it. He writes, some things are up to us, and some things are not. Up to us, our opinions, our judgments, our choices, what we pursue, what we avoid. These are ours completely. Not up to us, our reputation. What other people think of us. What credit gets assigned to us in a room when we're not speaking. The outcomes of our actions once they leave our hands. That last category is worth sitting with for a second. Your reputation, by Epictetus' framework, is not in your control. And he means this precisely. Your reputation is what other people decide to think and say about you. Epictetus isn't saying that's fine. He's saying that if you've built your professional stability on something another person can revise with one sentence in a meeting, you were always on unstable ground. Not because the work wasn't real, but because you placed the weight of your security on something that was never fully in your hands. Now Marcus Aurelius. Marcus returns repeatedly throughout the Meditations to two ideas that directly apply here. The first, when someone acts unjustly toward you, they are not injuring you. They are injuring themselves. Not as a moral consolation prize, but as a structural observation. The person who claims your work is building a version of themselves on false material. Every time they do it, the gap between who they appear to be and what they can actually produce widens. That gap has consequences. It's not your job to enforce them, but you should know they're real. The second idea Marcus returns to, and this is the one that directly addresses the trust violation, is that people who wrong you are acting from some degree of confusion or weakness. They may not even fully understand what they're doing or why. That doesn't excuse it, but it does change how you carry it. You didn't misread them before. You simply didn't yet know what they were capable of under that specific pressure. Two philosophers. One enslaved. One emperor. Both arrived at the same place. The only things that are permanently yours are the ones no one can take from you with a sentence in a conference room. The title of this video is The Stoic Response. And there are 3 of them. They happen at different times, but they're connected. Response 1. In the room, in the moment. You had an impulse to say something. Epictetus would not tell you to suppress that. He'd ask you to examine what's driving it. If the need to speak is coming from the desire to be seen as right, to reclaim status in front of the room, that's still a reactive move. You're being controlled by what just happened, not acting from your own ground. But if the impulse comes from a calm, factual commitment to accuracy, that's a different thing entirely. There is a version of a response in that room that is completely consistent with everything Epictetus and Marcus wrote. You don't accuse. You don't escalate. You simply add what's true. To build on what was just discussed, here's the thinking I brought to this piece. Delivered without charge in your voice. Factual. Unhurried. That's not confrontation. That's your voice in the record. And there is nothing in Stoic philosophy that asks you to erase it. Response 2. The days after. Now you need to sit with the specific nature of what happened. This wasn't a stranger taking credit in a room. This was someone you trusted enough to show your draft to. That's a trust violation, and it deserves honest acknowledgement, at least privately, to yourself. Marcus's observation applies here. This person, under the pressure of wanting recognition, made a choice that reveals something about who they are. What you did, sharing your work, collaborating, extending good faith, wasn't naive. You didn't make a mistake. But you now have information you didn't have before. If this was an isolated moment, you can note it and adjust quietly. If this is a pattern, if you've seen this before with this person, then a conversation is warranted. With them directly first. Or with your manager if direct conversation isn't viable. The question to ask yourself before you have either: am I doing this because it's the right thing to do, or because I want them to feel what I felt? The answer determines whether the conversation is useful or just retaliatory. One leads somewhere. The other usually doesn't. Response 3. The practice going forward. This is where Epictetus is most useful. After significant contributions, send a follow-up. Following up on the approach I outlined, here's the full thinking behind it. Copy the relevant people. Not as a counterattack. As standard practice. You are creating a record of your work through channels that are entirely up to you. That's Epictetus directly. Stop relying on someone else's mouth in a meeting to be your documentation system. Your work deserves to exist in writing, in your voice, sent by your hand. That is something no one in that room can revise. Think about what this also reveals. Your coworker's position is fragile in a way yours isn't. Their reputation now depends on continued access to your output. Yours depends on you continuing to produce. One of those foundations is sustainable. You know which one. Here's what this philosophy does not fix. And I want to be direct about this, because this is where a lot of Stoic content loses people by overselling. If your coworker is better connected, better positioned, or operating inside a culture that rewards the loudest voice over the most accurate one, Stoicism will not level that playing field. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor. He had total institutional power and still wrestled with colleagues who acted badly. Epictetus had no institutional power at all. Between the two of them, they covered the full range of human experience in organizational life. Neither was writing for a mid-level employee inside a company where credit-taking is the accepted currency and management doesn't look closely. Stoicism will keep you from destroying yourself with resentment while you figure out your next move. It will not fix a structurally broken workplace. It won't make your manager suddenly pay attention. It won't guarantee your documentation is read or that a conversation with your coworker produces anything. It is not a justice mechanism. It's a clarity mechanism. What the clarity is for, making the right decisions. Including, if it comes to it, the decision to leave an environment that consistently takes more than it gives you. That is not defeat. That is what Epictetus, who used his clarity to build an entirely different life once he had the freedom to choose, would call discernment. Know the difference between a situation that Stoic practice can help you navigate and one where the most grounded thing you can do is leave. Before your next deliverable. Before the next shared draft. Before the next meeting where your work will be discussed. Send one email. Document what you built, what the thinking was, who you shared it with, and when. Not as a weapon. Not in anticipation of conflict. Just as practice. The practice of making your own work legible through channels that are entirely yours. You're not doing it to win. You're doing it because the work deserves a record. And because Epictetus was right. What is up to you is not nothing. It's actually the only ground that has ever been stable. Build the record. Speak when speaking comes from principle. Know who you're dealing with. And return, each time, to the work. That's the response the philosophy actually supports. You've been carrying that meeting since it ended. The room is empty now. The manager has moved on. Your coworker has moved on. But you're still sitting with the question you had in the moment. What was the right response? Here's what Epictetus and Marcus both understood from opposite ends of everything. The response isn't a single thing you do in a meeting. It's a posture you return to. In the room. In the days after. In how you build and document your work going forward. The moment felt like a loss. It wasn't. What you built is still yours, in the record, in your next contribution, in the thinking you'll sit down with tomorrow. That's what they could never take. That's what they still can't.